Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Buckeye Breakdown solo episode tonight. Matt left me hanging. He's out rubbing elbows and playing golf with some bigwigs out in the middle of BFE. So it is just me on this episode. Um, we will be breaking down the victory over Michigan State on Peacock from the weekend as they were up there in East Lansing. Pretty convincing win. Clearly, some things to work out there and talk through. And then, of course, this upcoming week, we are have a home game. I think the 3:30 game on CBS, which is still taking some getting used to, but I think I love that slot. We'll talk about that as well. And then, of course, in just over a week as well, be going on the road to Eugene for what was announced just tonight or earlier today, a 7:30 game, which I think we all pretty much knew was going to happen. That's going to be on NBC. So looking forward to that matchup. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So will be a shorter episode. I can almost guarantee that. I'm assuming that the thousands of viewers that typically tune in will not be on tonight's episode because we are missing our co-host, so less to interact with. But screw it, let's get into it. Jeremiah Smith. I think that's where we absolutely have to start on this episode. I mean, the dude is he's just unreal, insane, not real. I think Devin Brown said it on the sideline. I think Ohio State released a clip of that, but I mean, the dude is just not human. He is. I don't know. I probably can't even give it justice, but the things that dude is doing as a true freshman. I mean, we knew that when this recruitment was going on, we knew how important it was to go get him. I don't think. I mean, there were leading indicators that this was going to happen, but I don't think that there was. I don't know. If I were to say kind of his stat lines and show like just a clip of what happened in Michigan State on the same drive, I don't know if people would have expected that early. Like usually there's, Garrett Wilson, some of these guys have had good freshman years, but weren't on pace. They weren't wide receiver one for Ohio State. Um, and yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you like how truly important that recruitment was. Because don't get me wrong, Emeka, Carnell Tate, Brendan Ennis, like if we would have missed on him, we would be pretty upset right now because I think him and Cam Ward would be doing some nice things down in Miami. But we would have been okay. But man, like he is going to be a differentiator later on into the season, into the college football playoff. Because he's not just a good, like he is top five wide receiver, maybe top like three wide receiver, all things considered, especially as you get into that point in the season. Just not a freshman, absolutely not a freshman. Now, Alabama, which we'll touch on briefly. Alabama has their own freak of nature with Ryan Williams, and he had some great catches as well. And I think honestly, like I've caught myself in between two things with Jeremiah Smith where there's like the frustration of like, he had a really good game. Clearly it was on Peacock. It was against Michigan State. He had like, those two crazy catches that were going viral. But like not even an hour or two later, against, arguably the biggest matchup of the regular season, or at least in September. Ryan Williams has some crazy catches of his own, and I found myself getting a little frustrated, like, you guys aren't paying attention to Jeremiah Smith, and it's like, no, that he had his moment. That's just how quickly things move. But maybe it's like, puts a little chip on the shoulder a little bit, puts a little, these guys are competitive. I'm sure Jeremiah Smith is ultra competitive. So for him not to be, the number one freshman wide receiver talked about right now because of the stature of the games may work out in Ohio State's favor as well. But to think that could be a matchup later in the year is going to be worth it. So Matt nailed it. He called the Jeremiah Smith. He called that it would be 3 touchdowns, which he was very close to having 2 in the first half. And one of those coming from Devin Brown. So Matt was spot on with the Jeremiah Smith prediction. And overall, offense, looked pretty good. I think Will Howard made a couple questionable decisions, had just a couple of interesting throws, but I think that's what we're to be expected a little bit. To be expected. He's still, even though he's 23 years old, fifth year senior, and all the things, he is still, there's a level up to him to be Ohio State's, starting quarterback and to compete at the top level. It's not like, this guy was top five. I mean, he'd either be in the NFL right now. Yeah, he'd be in the NFL right now. No questions asked. If there wasn't some more development to happen, some leveling up to happen for Will Howard, he'd be in the NFL. Maybe not a day one pick, but certainly day two. And but there's some things that he needs to work on. Overall decision making has been pretty good. I think he had some questionable decisions in the Michigan State game, and led to an interception early. And but they bounced back. Overall, I thought he played a pretty good game. I was worried when he got cracked in the ribs or kind of just got the wind knocked out of him. Devin Brown was able to keep that together. But overall, impressed with Will Howard. And I think he'll develop as the passer. He'll get there. I think the thing that I love about Will Howard, and I think the thing that we just have to enjoy, and this is, I'm a Colts fan, and this is similar. It's kind of funny. It's you have this mobile quarterback. That's the differentiator. That's what sets him apart. I'm a Colts fan with Anthony Richardson. It's not the accuracy or the passing. They can make those things happen. They can do some things. They're quarterbacks at the end of the day, but it's the mobile element. It's making a defense have to sacrifice something. It's either you're sacrificing a Will Howard run or pass to a Mecca Ibuka or Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate or whoever it may be, or you're sacrificing a run to Quinshon Judkins or Trevion Henderson or James Peoples. So either way, having that element, again, all the best to Kyle McCord, all the best to Devin Brown. I don't think he's not as mobile as Will Howard. This is exactly where we should be. And I wouldn't want it any different. I'm excited for the Julian Sayin years. I'm excited for Tavian St. Clair down the road. But I'm going to soak this in and really enjoy this Will Howard experience, because I think it could be a good one. And hey, national championships haven't always been won by the best quarterbacks here at Ohio State. So, yeah, other than that on the offense, I mean, Trevion still doing some things, picking up blocks. This dude, we'll talk about the Jeremiah Smith, or we already talked about the Jeremiah Smith touchdown from Devin Brown, but that does not happen if Trevion Henderson doesn't step up, get him a little physical, and pick up a block there. That was one of my favorite moves that I'd seen on Saturday. So very happy with Trevion and his performance as well. He led the team in rushing. Quinshon, I put a bet on Quinshon to go over on his yards. He didn't have a bad game, just I think they're a little more onto him. But overall, good performance, good road win for the offensive side. Again, a couple questionable things here and there, but O-line looks pretty damn good. Again, it's Michigan State, but looks pretty damn good. I mean, they were, I think defensive line, I think they were leading, or they were top 3 in sacks, I want to say, coming into the game. So it wasn't, again, we're getting there. We're progressing to Iowa. We're progressing to Oregon and Penn State and all the other matchups. IU now potentially being a big matchup. But O-line just seems dialed. I think Seth McLaughlin is really stepping up, and Donovan Jackson stepping up. Josh Simmons, another year of development. Austin Sarabeld might be taking over that right guard spot, which is good for. I think Tegera, I think he would still be back next year. But good for, I think, what was questionable on the offensive line for future state. So an Austin Sarabeld stepping up at this time is good. I'm starting to seeing the longer term vision of, hey, maybe Justin Fry has some things figured out. I think still have to go to the portal, and you do still need to land a David Sanders type prospect here and there. Doesn't have to be all the time, but I see the vision. I think O-line's looking good, and I think Chip Kelly is helping that, right? Yeah. I said it last episode. Pay Chip Kelly whatever he needs to stay the offensive coordinator. So yeah, outside of that offense, on the Chip Kelly note, I kept thinking this through the game, and commentators, they were pretty bad. Don't get me wrong. But they did make a point of like, hey, Chip, this is a reminder that, Chip Kelly did not come here because he couldn't be a head coach. He came here probably, some of it was a favor to, it wasn't the first choice for Ohio State. Like, let's not forget the Bill O'Brien thing, but I think Bill O'Brien would have been just as good. I think there's some other things. I'm not going to get into schemes because, frankly, I'm not smart enough for that. But I think the personal relationship between Chip Kelly and Ryan Day is better for the program, better for Ryan Day, I should say. But either way, it makes me think, like, why did we not just do the Chip Kelly thing first? Like, why did we even mess with that? Like, again, I like Bill O'Brien. I think he would have been good, and, all the best to him at Boston College. But, like, why didn't we just lean into Chip Kelly initially? But either way, it worked out. But my original point here was that, Chip Kelly, it's not that he didn't have offense, he was a sitting head coach, whether or not that was going to last too much longer at UCLA. Like, the dude could probably be a head coach at a lot of programs, maybe not necessarily Power 4, but certainly, could be a head coach somewhere. And this isn't like that typical head coach to offensive coordinator step down. And he's made comments, and this is what my point is, he's made comments about, I don't want to be the fundraiser. I don't want to be the CEO. Like, I really just want to be play caller. I really want to be just that guy. And it just has me thinking, like, initially I was kind of looking at this as like a 2-year, get Brian Hartline, caught up on some things, get Ryan Day comfortable with being away from play calling. Like, this is kind of like a 2-year little stint. And then maybe Chip Kelly goes back to the NFL as a coordinator, goes to, be a head coach somewhere. I'm really starting to, like, again, not getting too ahead of myself. We're only 4 games into this thing, but starting to see a vision of, like, could this just be the duo? Like, could this just be the thing that you are the offensive coordinator, you are the guy under Ryan Day, but working with Ryan Day at Ohio State, and that's just where he, kind of rides off into the sunset for a while. Don't have to deal with the NIL as much because Ryan Day has that covered, and some of the coordinator or some of the position coaches have that covered, and you can kind of just sit back and scheme. And similar to Jim Knowles, like, what do we got to do to just, like, keep that up? We'll get to the defense, a little, some comments there, here and there, but yeah, man, it just got me thinking. Like, he doesn't want to be that guy. Would work out very well for Ohio State if we can make that a long-term thing. But we at least have him for this year, and anticipating at least a couple more years, because Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith are going to be very fun to coach. So defense, let's get into it. Looked a little soft on some things early, and then, like, as soon as you say that, it's like, oh, there's a forced turnover. Oh, JT makes a big sack. Oh, Caleb Downs comes out of his shell, quote unquote shell. He's been known for a while and been very comfortable for a while. But the defense, just, there's certain things that are being worked on. I know a lot of people are not happy with the Sonny Styles performance so far. Seems like Arvell's getting a little more action out there. There's, at least on podcasts and things that I've listened to, it sounds like Gabe Powers is being mentioned a little more on maybe getting into the rotation. But yeah, the Sonny Styles thing, I didn't expect it. I thought that it was just going to be a more natural fit for him. Seems like, yeah, just seems like there's something there. But again, he's developing. He's a young player to begin with. He is, because he enrolled early. He was recruited as a safety, so this is still his, first couple of years at the linebacker or first couple of games, I should say, at the linebacker position. So there's some things that he needs to figure out and some reads and things that we'll get there. But either way, overall defense, like, excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of water here. Defense overall, there was some frustrations, but when you needed something to happen, it happened. They gave up a drive early. That was the end of it. Like, they held a freaking Big Ten team on the road with, he's young, but a decent quarterback that's going to develop and probably be a problem for Ohio State in 2 years or 1 year. Held them to 7 points. Like, I took we did bet in the Bucks on Friday, and I was looking at that team total at 12.5, and I was like a little iffy on it. Like, you never know. Like, get a touchdown, kick 2 field goals. Things can move pretty quick, especially as, things later on into the game. No, this defense held strong. Like, again, got a little risky here and there, but forced turnovers, and next thing you know, like, in a good position. So the other thing that I had bet on for the game was a defensive touchdown. I thought we were going to get it on that Denzel pick. Fortunately did not. But we're getting there. I think that we can get a defensive touchdown here before long, on betting the Bucks. But either way, I'll hold off. I think they've seen a couple things these last 2 games. They're working through it. And, we got Iowa and Oregon, so we'll talk about it here in the next couple of weeks. Clearly Iowa's not much of a, dual threat by any means with, Caleb Johnson is good, which we'll talk about, but Eugene out in Oregon is going to be the real challenge, and that's when we'll really judge things on, that'd be the October 14th podcast. Matt and I that'll actually be programming note. Matt will be back next week by himself because I will not be here. So Matt will be running that. But either way, we'll come back together after that Oregon win, hopefully. Caleb Downs, I mentioned it. Matt nailed that one as well. Now listen, you can give me shit, deserve it. I went Quinshawn and JT, so pretty good picks as well. And, decent games. I wouldn't say they were MVPs, but yeah, you tell somebody, hey, pick the MVPs. It's like, yeah, the first easy thing is to go Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith. But give credit where credit is due. Caleb Downs, he's here. He's here. And by the way, we have him for another year after this as well. So he's here. He is here. And excited to see what he's going to do. But either way. Outside of that, overall, good game. Happy with the performance. Peacock sucks. Peacock is so bad. I hope that we do not have to watch another experience on Peacock, but we'll see how things go there. Hopefully we don't deserve that again. Okay. Well, let's get into it. We got Iowa this week. Like I said, 3:30 kickoff on CBS. I think I'll pull up the line here while I ramble, but it's at home. So Iowa's coming off of a bye, which, always a little worrisome when a team has 2 weeks to prepare versus 1 week to prepare. But I kind of alluded to it earlier. Not a definitely something they're going to test Ohio State. They're going to, they run some different packages than you'll see with Oregon and Penn State and some of these, right? They're known for their tight ends and some of those sets there. And then they have a hell of a running back in Caleb Johnson, who's, I don't think going to be in a Heisman conversation per se, but certainly is making a name for himself and in college football landscape. And yeah, if he was down at Alabama or Georgia, he certainly would be in the Heisman conversation. But either way, defense is going to be tested a little bit. Defense is certainly going to be tested, but let's not forget that Cade McNamara is certainly going to, not be the biggest threat when it comes to the passing game. And yeah, I mean, Iowa just, that's not what they're known for, right? So the spread is 19.5, Ohio State's favor on FanDuel. Over under is 44.5. I don't know, man. I mean, I think that do they win by three? I mean, that's, basically calling it by 3 touchdowns. Do I think they win by 3 touchdowns? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's going to be a grinder a little bit. I think the first half is going to be close. If I'm looking at, and I don't know if they have like first half total, like 23.5 first half total for the game. I'd be looking at the under. Like I'm looking at like a 14-7, 14-3, like first half, where it's like, it's, again, Ohio State isn't necessarily out of control, but they're gonna have to grind a little bit. I think they're gonna have to make some halftime adjustments, and they're gonna have to, come out and show their strength in the third and fourth quarter to ultimately win this and cover that spread. But I think, I mean, let's not kid. I mean, Ohio State's ranked number 3. They're the best. They're the best team in the country. You can maybe sub out, Georgia or Bama, Texas, maybe, right? Like they're kind of interchangeable. Like who's really 1 through 3. So yeah, I think that they'll take care of it. I don't, even if they do go a closer game than comfort. It's college football, I guess. I don't know. It's I just don't want there to be a ton of like concerns. I just don't want there to be a ton of concerns going into Oregon. I want them to be tested. I think the Buckeyes need to be tested a little more, which they were. Again, in moments they were in Michigan State, but I want them to be tested. Like, let's, figure out some things defensively. Like, let's continue to step up. Like, offense, like, make Will Howard start to make some throws and open up the playbook maybe a little more and challenge yourselves a little bit. But let's not keep it close. Let's just, like, take care of business and not give us too much to have to worry about going into Eugene. So normally this is where we would do our MVP predictions for the game. Clearly Matt is not here to make his picks, so I will just make my own picks here. Let me see. Only comments from Matt, my co-host here, is I love this team. I love Jeremiah Smith. I love Caleb Downs playing downhill, and I'm ready to go dominate Iowa. So no picks from him, but I figured I would share his comments there. And go ahead and make my picks. Go ahead and put my picks out there. So MVP on the offensive side of the ball. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go Will Howard. I think Will Howard again learned some things this week. I think he's gonna have to step up and keep things moving. I think the playbook's gonna open up for him a little bit. Stat lines are a little difficult with him so far. Just because we haven't seen him play a full game, and again hasn't been like really tested yet. So I'll throw out let's say 300 yards, two passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. So 300 yards, 3 total touchdowns, 1 of those being rushing. So I'll pick Will Howard for the offensive MVP. Of course, like the easy route is to just go Jeremiah Smith. For entertainment purposes, I just want to change it up, change the talk track a little bit. Clearly, Jeremiah Smith is like the easy pick, but I'll lean into Will Howard having a good performance here. On the defensive side of the ball, Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs. That's it. That's all. He's good. He's very good. I sound like the Peacock announcers right now, but we're unlocking him. He is here. This is Caleb Downs, freshman, All-American Caleb Downs. We got him. He's here. Buckeye Nation. He is here. Yeah, score predictions. I'll throw it out there. So I think they're going to cover the spread. So I think that they're going to at least cover 19.5. I think that going into halftime, it's going to be 14-3. I think that the Buckeyes end up winning 35-10, which that's right in line with the over-under at 44.5. So I'll go 35-10. Buckeyes have a little bit of like a clunky first quarter, first half, but then ultimately pull away and win this game convincingly. Only give up 10 points, maybe a garbage time touchdown, maybe a third quarter, something like that. But I think it's going to be, again, a little sloppy earlier, a little difficult early, but I'm going to lean into the Buckeyes here, going 35-10 to win the game, cover the spread, go hit the over just by 0.5, get those bets in now, and then be off to the races. So that's going to wrap up the Buckeye breakdown talk. We'll get into a little college football talk and then get you out on this beautiful evening. Let's see. Anything else I wanted to say on the Buckeyes before we get into the rest of college football? We'll do betting the Bucks on Friday, so that will release on Friday. I have picked 6 picks each week. I was a little the first week I was like way off on. I was 3-3, but I picked the 3 losses that I had were like reeled in a little bit. This week 3-3 as well. Wasn't as crazy on the ones that I missed. So I missed the first quarter total, 10.5, which we know, again, things were a little slow to start there on the scoring. And then I'd say the crazy pick was the Ohio State defensive touchdown, which did not happen, clearly. But we were close. Again, Denzel could have ran that back, but was unable to. Then I missed Judkins on the over-under, or the over on 77.5 yards. But I hit Trey over yards. I hit Michigan State total under. And then I hit the Jeremiah Smith over on 76.5 yards. So overall, decent. Either way, we're 6-6 total on picks. Hoping to get into the positive here soon. And then get things rolling. Be making some money on betting the Bucks. So that'll release Friday. Then again, Matt will be back next Monday, either with Hayden or just by himself, doing a solo pod there. So, let's talk about it real briefly. Talk about kind of a quick look around the college football world, and then get off with our evenings. So, Bama and Georgia was a beautiful game. I will be the first to admit that I was a sleepy boy and I fell asleep in the middle of the fourth quarter, or maybe it was third quarter, fell asleep and then had one of those, which this happens a lot with me. There's something in my body that then there's something going on, and then I wake up. Was able to catch the final touchdown there. Was able to see that, despite Georgia's best efforts, Bama was able to hold things off and have a crazy touchdown at the end with Ryan Williams. So, I don't know. I came into this game thinking I thought that the spread was going to be Bama 2.5, on at home, and it was flipped. Bama plus 2.5 was the line. Georgia favored, and I just thought that Georgia, they're a great program, don't get me wrong, but I thought the struggles with Kentucky were weird, and I know Bama kind of struggled with USF, but I just thought, I thought that there was some opportunities here. And I thought that, I just kind of, I had that gut feeling, which is always fun to podcast about, the gut feeling, because no one knows what you're talking about. But I had that thought, and it ended up working out. I think that Bama clearly, we're handling the Bulldogs early. But what does this mean for Ohio State? I mean, in the college football playoff world that we're in with 12 teams, both teams are still a threat. Clearly, Bama seems to be the bigger threat at this point, but again, with how this sport moves, and especially with how that game ended up going at the end of the day, Georgia can still piece things together. Like, you can get up big on Georgia on the road, or with them being on the road, they can still figure things out. So, Illinois, Penn State. I thought that line was fishy as well. We talked about it, 19.5, I think, or 19 is what it closed at. I think, ultimately Illinois pulled away and they were fine there, but never thought that game was almost 3 touchdowns. I was a little blown away by that line when it was released, but Illinois looks good, middle kind of Big Ten. I don't think necessarily be fighting for a playoff spot. But we'll be in a good position, setting themselves up for the future there. And Penn State, Penn State's Penn State. Not worried about them. I hesitate to say not being worried about anybody. But yeah, not necessarily worried about the team, especially with, not that the spread is everything. And I thought it was fishy, but I think that there's still a tier that's and this year it's not Michigan, because Michigan also almost lost the game to Minnesota, despite maybe the fix coming in on that one. But either way, I still think that Penn State's just a lower tier than Ohio State, and again, we'll see what Oregon turns out to be. I know Oregon didn't they beat UCLA handedly if you just look at the score box, but or box score, I should say. God, I sound like Colt McCoy right now. This is brutal. But either way, I think that we'll see how that goes in a couple of weeks. Be able to judge them a little more, but Oregon may be in that same tier with us, and then it's Penn State and company, I should say, because I don't know where Michigan truly stands up there. Ole Miss sucks. Love to see Lane Kiffin blow it. It's just amazing. And Kentucky, Mark Stoops just doesn't seem like he wants to win these games, but he won the game. So congrats to him. How does it affect Ohio State football? How does any of this affect Ohio State football? Not a ton. It's you got to play the games that you play. College football playoff, it's unpredictable. A lot of these teams can still make it. But either way, looking forward to these next couple weeks. It's getting fun. The rest of the slate was kind of sleepy outside of a couple of those games, so I'm excited to get back to it. So I'm going to put a ribbon on it. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the 0 people that tuned in live. Really appreciate the strong fan base that we have here. We will be back next week for either solo pod or a guest on the episode next week. I'll be dropping betting the Bucks on Friday. And then, we'll be back for a full episode on October 14th after we go 2-0 against Iowa and Oregon. Once again, been Owen Smith with the Buckeye Breakdown. Follow us on Twitter at BuckeyeBDN, at 317 Buckeye for me. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you.